What's up guys, Mickle here, and something that I see a lot of people consistently having a hard time with is the opportunity of being early. Guys, people want to be early to an investment, they want to be able to ride that price appreciation, but they also don't want to wait for it to happen. Guys, in this video, I want to show you exactly why waiting is actually the best thing that could possibly happen. I want to show you what the big institutions are doing behind the scenes right now and simply not telling you about, because guys, I think it's really going to help you understand that some of these cryptocurrency prices are purposely being held low so that big institutions can make their allocation prior to this industry taking off. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Guys, these two things really do help me out so much. Also, if you have any good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange Uphold down in the description of this video. With that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. I want to start this video out and just quickly point something out that I think everyone needs to be paying attention to right now. This is a very, very big deal, and that is whether or not Joe Biden decides to veto SAB 121. Now, we talked about SAB 121 in great depth in the video last night, so if you want to know more about it, just refer to that video. But essentially, in a nutshell, SAB 121 is an SEC policy to prevent institutions from holding digital assets. The SEC is essentially doing everything in their power to make it so institutions in the United States cannot touch a digital asset, even if that digital asset has clarity. Now, what we saw yesterday was actually that the Senate and Congress came out and voted SAB 121 is actually illegal and should be repealed. Now, prior to any of this voting, Joe Biden came out and said that he is going to veto the repeal if Congress and the Senate put it through. So guys, now we're waiting to see whether or not Joe Biden is actually going to veto it or that was just a bluff. It would be fantastic news if Joe Biden realized that a lot of Democrats actually voted in favor of repealing SAB 121, and therefore it might not be in his best interest to actually veto the repeal. As Joe Biden might see that there is actually a lot of support behind getting rid of SAB 121, and it might start to actually click to the administration that a lot more people are pro-cryptocurrency than anti-cryptocurrency. So we have essentially 9 days now to see whether or not Joe Biden is going to veto it. I believe it's 9 business days, so let's keep that in mind. And it's probably one of the biggest things we need to be paying attention to right now. If it turns out that Joe Biden does not veto SAB 121, it would be extremely bullish for the possibility of actually getting pro-cryptocurrency legislation this year. Now, if Joe Biden does come forward with a veto to essentially put SAB 121 back in action, well, I think that's pretty much sinking the current administration's chances of being reelected, because what we're seeing is there is a massive demographic of people who are pro-cryptocurrency, who are only voting for people who are pro-cryptocurrency, and are sick of people attacking this industry. So let's see what happens, but this is something that is going to be absolutely crucial over the next couple weeks. We need to see how this plays out. If it doesn't get vetoed, guys, we could be in a much more bullish environment than I would have ever expected. If it does get vetoed, well, it's still an awesome sign to see that Democrats and Republicans were able to come together to ensure that we take a stand against hostile regulators attacking this industry and abusing their power. I want to move on though and talk about what I believe is very, very significant and what a lot of people have a really hard time understanding in this space, and that is the benefit of being early. This is an older clip of Brad Garlinghouse, but I've never actually heard him say this before, and I thought it was really cool. And what Brad Garlinghouse is talking about in this clip is the advantage retail investors have in the cryptocurrency industry. Now, he correctly points out that this is one of the first times in history we have ever seen this. In almost every single market prior to the cryptocurrency industry, the institutions would make their allocations, get positioned, and say, okay, retail, you're not ready to come in yet. You need to be an accredited investor. You need this much money. We're going to play around in this industry for now, and then when we're done with it, we'll hand it off to you. That's typically how the markets had worked. But what cryptocurrencies did was flip this entire model on its head. Now retail investors could actually get in before the big institutions, and this allows us to try to figure out where the institutions are ultimately going to put their assets and try to beat them into the game. Now, here in the XRP community, I think a lot of us have realized a lot of these different products and protocols are going to be used to kind of upend the rails of the current financial system. Therefore, the more and more institutions that are onboarded onto the XRP ledger, the more and more institutions who will ultimately see the value there and invest alongside of us. That's a big part of the thesis. But what's so important to understand is because these big institutions are late to the party, they're not going to tell you where they're going. They're not going to make an announcement saying, hey, we're going to start investing into the XRP ledger, and in 3 to 4 years, we hope to fully adopt it. They can't say that because we have beat them into the investment. In years prior in private markets, institutions were able to be a lot more loose with what they were saying. And that's because they didn't have to worry about retail front running them. Retail just straight up couldn't invest into these things. So now institutions need to be hyper conservative in what they're announcing and what they indicate because they know the direction they're headed. What we see behind the scenes is that exact thing taking place. People like JP Morgan saying that the XRP ledger is poised for mass adoption if Ripple can beat the SEC in court. People like Bank of America signing Ripple as a partner in 2018 and continuing to be a partner with them throughout the entire Ripple SEC case. People like BNY Mellon sending their own board members over to the Ripple board. People like the Federal Reserve meeting with Ripple in 2013. Right, there are countless examples of institutional adoption on the back end, and none of this stuff is ever announced to the public. In fact, the few times it is announced, Ripple has actually gone out of their way to kind of tell people, hey, this wasn't supposed to be known yet, do you mind pulling it back? So what we know is there is an absolute effort for the big institutions to hide the things they're doing behind the scenes. And just to show you guys as a fact that's what's happening, I wanted to bring something to your attention. Over the past couple days, we have found out that a lot of major institutions have been investing into the Bitcoin ETFs, but not made any kind of announcement. The only reason we have found out about this is because we can now see them in SEC filing. It's been about a quarter since the Bitcoin ETFs have went live, so now we're starting to see what institutions have been doing with them on the back end in that time. And what we're learning is time after time, billion-dollar funds are investing into these Bitcoin ETFs. Now, what is the point of this? Well, the point is none of these institutions said they were going to do this. None of these institutions came out bullish. A lot of them actually came out bearish. They were all trying to head fake the entire industry. They were all trying to say, oh, we're not looking at this. We're not investing. We're not making any announcements. We're not interested. And then behind the scenes, they're investing large amounts of capital into the industry. Guys, I think the same exact thing is going to play out when it comes down to the utility. I think a lot of these institutions are going out in public and saying, look, we don't really see the purpose in cryptocurrencies, things like XRP. Yeah, we don't know about that. But then we look at what they're doing behind the scenes and we see a lot of trials, a lot of tests, and they're just left saying, okay, yeah, we'll test a lot of things. But guys, I think the truth of the matter is they fully understand that things like XRP are going to be critical in the next generation financial system. But if they come out and say that, they are going to allow retail to continue to front run them and continue to leave them in the dust. What I believe we are watching right now is the start of institutional adoption. What I think we're watching right now is institutions coming into this asset class, but trying to be as sneaky as possible. And guys, that leads me to my final point of why it is so beneficial to be early and not late. Guys, there is going to be a time period in the near future, I believe, where a lot of these cryptocurrencies are going to take off, go to extremely high levels, and never return to the current value. There are going to be some people who invest 2 weeks before that happens. There are going to be some people who invest 1 week before that happens, or even the day before that happens. And a lot of us in the XRP community might sit there at first and say, those people are so lucky. I sat in this asset for 6 to 7 years, and these people were in there for 2 days and they already got the gains. Guys, let me just tell you, those same exact people who just got into XRP are going to be saying the people who have been investing in this thing for the last 6 to 7 years are really the lucky ones. And that's because you cannot build a position overnight. You cannot get bullish on an asset like we are bullish about the XRP ledger overnight. All the people who are just getting into XRP right now, just starting to put their allocation into place, just starting to build out resources, are never going to actually build out a substantial position. They are only going to get a small taste of XRP and ultimately look back and say, how did I not figure out this sooner? Us in the XRP community, we have been forced to be patient. We have been forced to ride out this entire investment and slowly invest more and more resources over time. And for a lot of people, this has been hard. This has been tiring, and it's been something they have seen as a negative. But I want people to fully understand, I really do believe when this entire thing plays out, the people who are going to benefit the most are the people who are forced to be the most patient, because they were able to see all the evidence. They were able to see everything being built and take their time dollar cost averaging into the asset. Meanwhile, the people who are just learning about it today are going to get bullish. They might buy a tester amount, and before they know it, the price is going to reach a level where they can no longer add to their bag in a reasonable way. Guys, this is why I always tell people it is so lucky to be early. That's what investing is all about. It's about figuring out the most powerful parts of any ecosystem. It's figuring out which technologies are going to be the most powerful and which technologies are going to be adopted the fastest. And you need to figure that out before the market, because if the market figures it out before you, you are late. Guys, I think the XRP community is one of the smartest communities out there. I think we have figured out a lot of stuff before the market has. The rest of the market is still FOMOing over meme coins, NFTs, and all these things that I don't think are going to drive a lot of value. What we figured out with the XRP ledger is there's something more to blockchain than that's just speculation. We figured out there was deep utility being adopted by big institutions on the back end. Guys, let's see whether or not all that institutional adoption was just for fun and it was just trials, or whether or not they really plan to use this technology and they just aren't ready to tell you about it yet. We'll see what happens, but guys, either way, I hope you enjoyed this update. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. It really does mean so much. And for now, Mickle out.